From a $100,000 fine for an intentional crash to a $300,000 fine for manipulating the outcome of a race, NASCAR has handed out countless fines costing teams hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in this video we're going to go over the biggest ones given out in history. Starting off with the largest penalty handed out to a team in the next-gen era, when on Memorial Day weekend in 2023, Stewart-Haas Racing driver Chase Briscoe entered NASCAR's longest race 5 points ahead of Alex Bowman for the 16th and final playoff spot. In need of a successful run at the track he nearly won at 1 year prior to keep his playoff aspirations alive. However, after starting and finishing 20th during the event, the number 14 car would end up being one of 6 cars taken back to the NASCAR R&D Center for further inspection after the race, with Briscoe's car being randomly selected to undergo a full teardown. During this is when NASCAR discovered a problem on the car in the form of a counterfeit engine panel NACA duct, which in the era of teams all buying from a single source for their parts was a huge issue for NASCAR, seeing them slap an L3 penalty on the 14 team, the harshest of which they could give out, with them receiving a staggering $250,000 fine. But the penalty wasn't just a massive hit financially, as along with being fined $250,000, the team was docked 120 owner and driver points, while crew chief Johnny Klausmeier was suspended from the next 6 events following this, with the NASCAR senior vice president going on to state, "Don't mess with a single source part. Working in areas we used to in the Gen 6 car, it's just not going to be acceptable with this car as we move forward. It's not going to be the culture we're going to allow." The penalty absolutely derailed Briscoe's playoff run and his season, dropping him from 16th in the standings all the way down to 31st, which is where he'd end up remaining for the rest of the year, later going on to round out the season a disappointing 30th in the final standings, or 23rd had he not been penalized. Although Chase Briscoe's team gambled and lost big, they at least had the resources of Stewart-Haas Racing behind them to pay the fine. However, for journeyman driver Carl Long, a microscopic infraction would lead to consequences so large they'd fundamentally alter his entire racing career after. Since his last Cup start in 2006, Carl Long had failed to qualify for 8 straight races over the next 3 seasons, not including the non-points All-Star Opens that allowed every car to race. Yet during this is when his entire career would change, as during the 2009 All-Star Open, Long would suffer an issue in the practice on Friday, seeing him blow up using an engine he had just recently purchased. The team swapped motors for the race, where unfortunately, the new one would also blow up on just lap 3, leading to him finishing in last for the event. Under NASCAR's rules only allowing a team of 1 engine per weekend, the sanctioning body examined the bad engine from Friday, where they discovered an issue and chose to send it to R&D for further inspection, later discovering the engine exceeded the maximum cubic inches by 0.017 inches, measuring in at 358.17 cubic inches. As a result, NASCAR fined crew chief Charles Swing $200,000 and suspended he, Carl Long, and Long's wife from the next 12 NASCAR races, while also docking them 200 driver and owner points. However, due to Swing's inability to pay the fine, it would fall to the team owner, being Carl Long, to pay. These fines' impact would be immediate and devastating for him, as after being unable to pay the $200,000, Long was effectively locked out of NASCAR Cup Series competition. He'd compete in the lower tier Xfinity and Truck Series, but his Cup Series career remained in limbo for nearly a decade, until in 2017, when Long finally worked out a payment agreement with NASCAR officials, allowing him to return to Cup Series participation as both an owner and occasional driver, making his long-awaited return to the Cup Series after 8 years at Kansas, where he'd qualify 40th and finish 31st. Unlike Carl Long's engine violation, sometimes NASCAR penalties arise from the most human of emotions, revenge, when Jeff Gordon deliberately right-reared Clint Bowyer into the wall at Phoenix in 2012, costing Bowyer a chance at the title and sparking a brawl between the two teams. The issues first began during the opening 2012 Martinsville race, when after dominating with his Hendrick teammate for most of the day, Jeff Gordon would lose the race after being junked following a Clint Bowyer bonsai move entering turn 1 on a late race yellow. And upon their return to the track in the fall, the 24 would again be moved by the 15, this time a lot less extreme, yet still leaving Gordon upset during the cooldown lap. The problems on track finally reached their boiling point on November 11, 2012, when during the second to last race of the season at Phoenix, Clint Bowyer, who entered the race third in the standings, ran Gordon into the wall late in the race off of turn 2, soon causing him to hit the wall in the next corner and officially pushing Gordon past his braking point.
Where is he? I'm getting his ass.
It's 24. He's probably looking for you. I know he's a moron for doing it. You need to be on your toes when you get to him.
What did he do? I mean, I just barely accidentally touched him, and he hit me in the right rear.
Do what you got to do to get by him. Don't give him a chance to wreck you.
He's turning Clint Bowyer into the wall, collecting Joey Logano. Caution flag is out.
That was a real act of a champion.
Almirola slides in.
That's a year's worth of frustration.
Oh, conflict. The Cruiser in it. And somewhere in the middle of that is Jeff Gordon.
NASCAR officials called Gordon to their hauler immediately after the event, and just 3 days later, they announced their verdict: a $100,000 fine, along with a loss of 25 championship points. However, with Gordon being a multi-millionaire, the fine hardly put a dent into him, and to make matters worse for Bowyer, Gordon would come back the very next week and finish ahead of him in a 1-2 finish between the two drivers. While the fine for Jeff Gordon was nothing more than a slap on the wrist, this NASCAR penalty completely erased a championship caliber team from existence when at Richmond Raceway in 2013, one spin shattered a NASCAR team's credibility and unleashed the sport's most consequential scandal ever. The stage was set perfectly for drama on September 7, 2013. As with NASCAR's chase for the Cup, several teams hovered on the bubble to advance entering the cutoff race. And when Ryan Newman, who was below the Cup prior to the race, took the lead in the closing laps, nearing the win he needed to secure his playoff spot, and boot out the Michael Waltrip Racing number 56 of Martin Truex Jr. out of points contention, is when the team orders began.
I don't know, man. Newman's closing on him. Right now they're tied for the last spot. You're clear by 2 in this 13. Fresh your tires. 39's going to win the race. Well, that kind of sucks. 9 more right here.
Is your arm starting to hurt? I bet it's hot in there, itching. Oh, yeah.
Spin on 4. Trouble, Clint Bowyer. Caution flag is out. Things change again. Wow.
Bring it to me this time. Bring it to me this time.
Pit, Clint. Pit. But don't speed.
Damn, we didn't need to finish last. I'll see you after the race, Brian. Oh, you. Kiss.
The spin looked suspicious enough on its own, but it was the radio evidence that damned Michael Waltrip Racing, as not only did Bowyer execute his questionable spin, but teammate Brian Vickers was also instructed to make an unnecessary pit stop, specifically to manipulate the finishing order. NASCAR's response came swiftly and severely to the team, dropping a $300,000 fine against Michael Waltrip Racing, the largest team penalty in the sport's history at the time, while all 3 drivers for the team lost 50 championship points. Along with this, NASCAR would do a never-before-seen move, ejecting Martin Truex Jr. from the playoffs and replacing him with Ryan Newman, and Jeff Gordon, I guess. However, the financial fine would only be the start of NWR's issues, as within days, Napa Auto Parts, Truex's primary sponsor, announced they were terminating their relationship with the team. And in 2014, with the whole left from Napa leaving, they downsized from 3 cars to 2, seeing longtime driver Martin Truex Jr. depart for Furniture Row Racing. And just 1 year later, the organization announced in 2015 that they would cease operations entirely at season's end, bringing an end to the 10-year operation. Last but not least, brings on the largest amount of fines handed out in NASCAR history, once again being due to race manipulation. The 2024 Xfinity 500 marked the cutoff race to NASCAR's Final Four, and after a long race and season of battling, the final position to make the championship race at Phoenix was going to come down to William Byron or Christopher Bell. Byron held the points lead over Bell late, yet his car began falling off a cliff approaching the end of the race, seeing multiple cars get past him to shrink his points gap. Yet when fellow Chevrolet cars ran him down and got to his bumper late, their momentum on him stalled immediately as they refused to pass, creating a side-by-side wall to block the 9th place car from being able to get around him. In the midst of seeing what was unfolding with the Chevrolets, Toyota driver Bubba Wallace began reporting on a tire going down in his 23 car, soon backing up to Christopher Bell and allowing him to pass him on the white flag. granting Bell 1 more point and sending him to the Final Four over William Byron. But NASCAR would still penalize Bell for wall riding off of turn 4, granting the last spot to Byron anyways, and upon listening to the team radios following the event, they would get enough info to drop the largest amount of fines given in NASCAR history.
If we pass that 24, he'll be out. Does the one crew chief know the deal? Yeah, he should. Nice and far with the 24 here. Are the Chevys literally just road blocking? Pretty much. We need one. We got to catch that 23. We've been telling them to back up to it. Go about half a straightaway back on the 20. I think I got a tire going down. Just hold it up top of this whole group here. Coming to the white.
NASCAR would hand out a $100,000 fine to both drivers Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon, as well as their teams for their involvement in manipulating the race, while also giving Bubba Wallace a $100,000 fine for both him and his team as well, bringing the grand total up to $600,000 paid in fines for the final 10 laps of a Martinsville event. As always, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next one.
Ryan Newman has had the dominant car statistically. Off at turn 4, checkered flag goes in the air. 15th career win for Ryan Newman, and right behind him, his teammate. 1-2 finish for Stuart Haas.